This broadcast of the NLRL Sunday League is brought to you by Malwa Transport, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. Visit their website on www.malwa-transport.ca. Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to TRTM for tonight's coverage of Season 5, Round 8 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Malwa Transport and live exclusively on TRTN. As always, I'm Regan Clark. You join us away here after the Easter break into Round 8 on the Season 5 roster as we get in towards the trailing end of this championship, entering its twilight chapters within the next 2 weeks as we take our third visit in a row here this broadcast week to the circuit Zandvoort. Founded in 1948 and comprised of 14 turns and 2.6 miles of FIA Grade 1, we make our trip for the third time going this week after Season 4, Round 4 of MSC and Season 4, Round 1 of HCCL, now to Season 5, Round 8 here on the 1999 to 2019 configuration of the circuit Zandvoort, of course home of the Dutch Grand Prix, also sees racing year on year from the GT World Challenge Europe Series, the DTM Series and ADAC GT Masters. It is a very challenging track indeed, and we've seen racing come rain or shine over the course of this week, so now we get to see what it can do under the anvil of war that is this Sunday League grid. Peeling away then from what has been a very dramatic series of events that curtailed over the last couple of weeks, trailing away from round 7 at Donington Park, saw both the leading championship fighters of Cas van Velzen and Carlos Diesch out of the race by the checkered flag. It ended up becoming the case where Michael Harris collected on his maiden victory, becoming the 16th driver ever to win in the NLRL Sunday League. Gave us our first Lexus win in over 2 seasons, since Season 2, Round 9 was the last time we saw Lexus first among the fray. That was courtesy of the Season 2 champion Jason Bush before Season 2 Round 10's cancellation. On board at the moment with Noah Haggard, and as we take a look through things, we do have a few formatting issues today in regards to SimGrid, so sadly we won't be able to discuss either the overall championship or the teams, so we'll have to gun things by eye here on the topic of the division standings. Taking a look here with the pros, Van Velzen leads up and ahead of Beefgartner with Vermaak in third. In fourth place in the pro standings at the moment is Brooklyn Donkin with 149 points, only 10 points away from that of Vermaak. Ian Skeen rounds out the top 5 there, only 5 points away from his teammate Brooklyn Donkin. Behind them, his also teammate there at the Euro Titans team, 132.5 points for Alan Alexander. Sam Angel behind with TSRC Esports Aston Martin in 7th place, up and ahead of Kyle Jenkins in 8th. Tyler Wolford in 9th place, as it would stand there with 72 points, and Ivan Sanchez rounds out the top 10. Getting a look into the standing of things for the rookies before we discuss today's event at hand here. Here's the look at the Rookies Championship, and it's 30 points between that top 3 in all at the moment. Rod, Diesch and Meredith all in contention here for the Rookies title. Last season's Rookies Champion was also driving for Ford at the time. It was VEC Esports' William Bajor who claimed on the first ever Rookies Championship after its introduction in Season 4. Rod looks to be next in line, but it's going to be stiff competition all the way to the season finale 2 weeks from now. Diesch still hot on the trails here, but he has lost some distance after round 7, so a very early DNF for the Swiss talent. And speaking of Carlos Diesch, we do have a remarkable bit of news to discuss over the course of today, but taking a look just before, having a look here at the session regulations. Double sprint format returns for the last time this season. The last double sprint format we saw was round 4, the very hectic doubleheader at Bathurst that saw Carlos Diesch to his first 2 victories in this series. So 10 minutes of free practice, 20 minutes of qualifying that will dictate the grid for 2 30-minute races placed back to back. There a single mandatory pit stop for each on open fuel with 3.2 seconds of minimum fueling time. Taking a look at the ballast heading in towards this round, Diesch and Van Velzen still the heaviest, but Vermaak catching up there, having gained a single kilo more over his recent ballast, now to 10 kilos, making third heaviest in class at the moment. Beefgartner was 7 kilos on. Michael Harris, upon his maiden victory, now has 5 kilos of extra weight on his Lexus. Alan Alexander with 4 kilos, Kieran Rod with 4 kilos, and we see there Ellie Pocket with 3 kilos, having finished second at Donington Park 2 weeks ago. Ian Skeen with 2 kilos, Fake Galaxy with 1 kilo, and Ben Meredith with a single kilo as well. Before we get back into the discussion of things in the mainline session here, here's a look at every single race winner after 51 races of the NLRL Sunday League. You'll see there the 16th race winner, the newest on the block, Michael Harris for Lexus. So getting back into the session here, still on board with Noah Haggard as he now falls to second fastest here in free practice with about 4 minutes left to go. We do have some exciting news, and it comes right out of the Sunday League transfer window. Going a look here, to find on with the 5:45. Carlos Dish has joined Euro Titans over the Easter break, left behind his time at 5-Star Esports, now joins Euro Titans, who continue to lead in the team's championship. They're looking lined up to take the team's championship this season. They've had an incredibly dominant stride, and that's only been reinforced now with the signing of the Swiss talent here. 3-time race winner this season. Both of his maiden wins came out of Bathurst, then his third career win came out of the Circuit Paul Ricard round some few weeks ago. This is going to make for a very exciting turn of pace here for the Euro Titans team. They've been very, very capable over the course of the season so far. Having a look back through the last couple of wins here, they found themselves in somewhat of a drought because their last race winner before signing Carlos Dish would have been looking back to Season 5, Round 1. That's Suzuka. That came courtesy of Cas van Velzen. That's not stopped the Dutch talent, though, from leading the championship at almost every step of the way. And that's only been further reinforced when we had the withdrawal of 2-time champion Melvin Milliston. Now we see the rise of Carlos Dish. Could very well challenge for the championship by the end of the season. Double points opportunities up for grabs today. And taking a look at the standings here in free practice, with about 6 drivers currently having entered times there. It's Dish from Van Velzen from Pocket, who was a real rising star talent in Donington last round. Finished second, was on the booking there to possibly take home a race win. Sadly missed out on it in the last round just gone. Up and ahead of Haggard and Taylor, with Hart in 6th place. Before we get into the scope of qualifying, just a quick glance as well at some more recent progress here from the Balance of Performance listing. You'll note the introduction of a brand new vehicle, the Reiter REX GT3, and that's driven by, and I'm just checking my notes here, Haydenio Progenio, totally unrelated to former Sunday League driver Hayden Proger of the 5-Star Esports team. He'll be driving the Reiter REX GT3, which is an all-carbon variation of the Lamborghini Gallardo. That'll be seeing 40 kilos off, one of the highest reductions of weight we've ever seen since the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. We'll be looking forward to seeing that Reiter out on track over the course of qualifying. Further around the field, a single kilo off for Aston Martin and Nissan, courtesy of the V8 Vantage and the GTR Nismo 2018. Then into the positives, Porsche gaining 3 kilos, Mercedes gaining 4, Ford only gaining 5, so do keep an eye out there for some of the Fords on today's grid. BMW gaining 6, McLaren gaining 9, Ferrari gaining 13, and Lamborghini gaining 16. We see towards the end of this session at the moment, Carlos Dish on his maiden drive here for the Euro Titans Endurance team in the Sunday League leads in a 1-2 alongside current championship lead Cas van Velzen. Now, one does wonder, with this recent news from the transfer window of Dish going over to the leading team of this championship, will there be a conflict of interest here for Van Velzen's championship, knowing both he and Dish sit at the forefront of things, or at least did on the run in towards round 7 in the last round just gone? They stood 17 points apart. From our calculations, that remains the same, with Dish having DNF'd in that race and Van Velzen's result having been dropped under the drop points regulations, left things where they stood at around 17 points between the pair. So it's still razor thin when we can get back on with the look of the overall championship, hopefully as early as round 9. Taking a quick glance at things, though, where we'll be for round 9. That comes up next week at the penultimate round of the championship as we head to the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. But for today, we are only a moment away from the start of 20 minutes of qualifying here. That will dictate both grids here at the Zandvoort double sprint. 17 cars in all in the session at the moment as we wait for the session start. There were some complications over the Easter break that resulted in the sim grid having to sort of be reconstructed just a little bit, which would perhaps explain the lower numbers for today. We see their brand new driver to the line down in the rookies. The number 83 of Helmy to the line there, goes 8th fastest at the end of this session. And that's Yaguta Helmy in the number 83, 8th in the session. We also see there another new driver for the field. This is Teo Vlasov in the number 19 BMW, goes 9th fastest at the end of today's session. Into the wall goes Vlasov with BMW. Fastest of the rookies then, Carlos Dish. Fastest of the pros is Cas van Velzen. Euro Titans looking at another dominant streak here. After a day to forget for them at round 7 over at Donington Park, it was definitely quite a controversial round there. That opening lap incident down through the old hairpin that kicked things off for the 5:45 sent him tumbling down the order to a very early end of round 7's performance for him. And we saw towards the trailing end of round 7, stranded down at Goddard's turn 12 was the case for that of Cas van Velzen. A very surprising turn of events there that saw him drop all the way down to 14th by the end of the race, picking up only 2 points. Ultimately, were dropped away under drop point systems. We have 8 sign-outs for this round of the championship. Now, I believe that might also be due to a case that we did observe where the Easter weekend in some other countries is actually a week in advance. So that's at least what we've heard. Take a lot of that with a grain of salt. We see there a very well synchronized exit of the pits. I mean, what a start that was there. Some real panache to it for the start of qualifying today. Getting a look into the qualifying predictions at large. Fake Galaxy predicted at pole position with Tyler Vermack and Carlos Dish dead level on times. 1:35.590 between the pair as they come rolling in towards qualifying today. Ben Cheeseman in 4th place in predictions. Heidinho Progenio in 5th place with a 1:37.032. He's up and ahead of Kyle Jenkins in 6th place. Alan Alexander predicted 7th with Sergio Belda 8th. We see there Charlie Smith predicted 9th with Willow Taylor predicted in the top 10. Theory would dictate we'd have 29 drivers on the grid according to race control, but right now only 17 of which, meaning we have 12 drivers MIA, which is a bit of a shocking sight considering how high the attendance has been for this championship over the course of Season 5, one of the largest continuous grids we've had in the history of the NLRL Sunday League. But as we trail in towards the last 3 rounds, it wouldn't really come up as much a surprise here to be seeing some of that late season fatigue creep in on quite a few, but we do see there is still plenty of stories left to be told. And for the Euro Titans team, they still have a championship to claim upon. With double points opportunities, it can only get sweeter for them on this run around. Getting a look on board, if we can here, with the leading BMW. We go to look on board here with Cas van Velzen as he makes his way round Arie Luyendyk. Looking for a win at home here. The Flying Dutchman makes his way down to the line here. 18.5 minutes left to go as he begins his first flying lap. We'll stay on board then with the BMW of Van Velzen down through to turn 1 at Tarzan Bocht for our unofficial tour of the circuit Zandvoort. Though if you've been watching in over the course of this week, I don't necessarily think the track needs much more introduction. However, out through Gerlach Bocht at turn 2 in towards Hugenholtz Bocht at turn 3. Now, we mistakenly said earlier on this week that was named after John Hugenholtz, who was the designer of the track. No, he wasn't. He cannot be claimed as the designer, but he was part of the administration that watched over this track in its early years. Up and around then Hunsrück turns 4 and 5, up through Slotmaker Bocht at turn 6, down through turn 7 here. This long sweeping right-hander has caught many a driver out over the course of the last week of racing here at the circuit Zandvoort. Down through turn 8 at Masters, in towards turn 9 and turn 10, now classified in the current day as just simply box 9 and box 10, a literal translation of turn 9 and turn 10. Used to be called the Renault corner and the Vodafone corner here. These opposing hairpins. One goes round to the right, the other round to the left here on the run down through to the Hans Ernst box. Used to go by the Audi S's down at turns 11 and 12. Heavy attacking spot we've seen in the last couple of days here at the circuit Zandvoort. 3rd day in a row here at the home of the Dutch Grand Prix. Getting very, very well acquainted with this track now. Down through turn 13 we go then at Kumo Bocht. And a little hesitant we saw there on the curbs was Van Velzen. It was a bit of a rocky start for him down through sector 1, out through Arie Luyendyk Bocht at turn 14. Down to the line we go then. Van Velzen to line 1:36.140. Ian Skeen 3/10 off. We see approaching the line then. The 5:45 of Carlos Dish goes fastest. Then Ellie Pocket from behind goes 4th fastest. We see approaching the line there is Progenio with Reiter. Down to the line he goes 5th fastest. From behind him there, approaching the line, the number 8, Tyler Vermack, goes to 4th. From behind him, Brooklyn Donkin goes up to, looking there, 6th place. Then we see the arrival of the 5-star Academy cars, Ben Hart and Noah Haggard. Haggard 9th, Hart in 6th. Number 83 across the line a moment ago. Guguta Helmi, now to 10th. Now to 11th with the introduction there of Willow Taylor. Sergio Belda goes to 12th. We see from behind there also new driver to the field is the number 19 of Vlasov. They are without a time on that last lap just gone. We see here to the line Kyle Jenkins with 5-star Esports. Across the line he goes, also no time set. We'll see if that is the same story carried over by Ben Cheeseman, a driver who has had quite an interesting week here on TRTN. We've seen him in a few different events. We saw him over on the World Series on Competizione Performance League last night in New York State at Watkins Glen, where he had quite a formidable drive indeed. So as things stand at the moment, Euro Titans 1, 2, and 3. The front row divided by only 68 thousandths of a second between Carlos Diesch and Cas van Veltzen. As we see there, just catching with van Veltzen down at Kumo Box. Caught some little bit of, not sand there, it was grass, then sand on the run up towards turn 13. Skeen currently third fastest. We'll see if there is a leap up towards second for him. Across the line, there certainly was a leap on his personal improvement for Carlos Diesch. 1:36.072 to beat. Across the line he goes, and as it would appear, doesn't find the fastest time, but one who does is Ellie Pocket by 2 thousandths of a second. 5 minutes into this qualifying session, Pocket was on the ground in Donington for a possible win. Then Vermaak says hello by giving 3/10 of a second worth of an improvement up over the time there set by Ellie Pocket. 5-Star Esports are not yet done with the front of this field. It may have been around to forget for them in Donington, but this is the time for revenge. Nearest the line, number 74, we catch on board here Sergio Belder. In the background, I believe that's Willow Taylor in the 387. Yes, it is. Belder in 13th. Taylor to the line stays 12th. We see from behind them there is the 91, Ivan Sanchez. Then Vlasov from behind as well. The number 19 still without a time. We see the 113 to the line. Kyle Jenkins now shoots up to 10th place. The 114 trailing from behind him here. Seen to the line Ben Cheeseman from 16th to 12th. Then to the line from behind as well here. It is the number 26 JM Quito with Holkianos up to 11th. Number 55 heading to the line here to start a flying lap. This is Fake Galaxy, the man predicted on pole position. Missed out on his opportunity to take the first ever race win for an Austrian driver at the second race of the Bathurst double sprint, the last time we visited the double sprint format this season. Ultimately, that was due to circumstances way out of his control, but since he's geared up for pole position today, this could very well be his opportunity to finally emerge from the shadows of doubt in this championship. We've already seen 2 new winners over the course of this season, being Carlos Diesch and Michael Harris. We could very well be on our grounds to see yet another over the course of round 8. Carlos Diesch recently goes up to second there, still stuck in behind Tyler Vermaak, who is on absolutely flying form. Across the line, stays fastest with the same 1:35.755. The number 17 approaches the line from behind. There was Brooklyn Donkin from 7th on the field. And behind him was the arrival there, I believe, of just having a glance in with the BMWs. I believe, yes, that was Noah Haggard, who made his way across the line not too long ago. Number 74 nearest to the line, Sergio Belder with Holkianos McLaren. Across the line he goes, stays 15th. His teammate approaching the line, Ivan Sanchez, in 16th place. Across the line, goes to 14th. Then we see again approaching from behind here is Vlasov in the number 19. Across the line, stays 17th then, now having officially put a time on the charts. We saw the 113 stays in 10th, and we see up to 11th now goes Ben Cheeseman with Lamborghini. And speaking of Lamborghini, still lapping the track at the moment is, and I can't believe I'm not actually being paid to say this. We know fully well who this is, but Heidinho Proginio in the 222, still lapping here on this track at the moment. In the now antiquated Gallardo. I mean, it is a real blast from the past. We saw some blasts from the past very early in the season over at Suzuka, courtesy of Michael Rushton and Ethan Oliver when they drove for Aston Martin in the V12 Vantage. That was sort of in tribute to the fact that we had officially lost out on seeing another season's worth of action from the V12 Vantage, with Christian Lebay having left Aston Martin to Ford at the start of Season 5. We've seen the time since the Carlos Diesch has now gone up fastest ahead of Vermaak by 28 thousandths. We see Proginio to the line here in the Reiter. Dare I say it, he's really not too far off here. He's just over 3/4 of a second away from the fastest time in the Lamborghini. And Reiter Engineering was the same engineering firm that teamed up with KTM to produce the Crossbow GT4 and GT2. So it's quite remarkable to see the early steps of things here. Now, this was in that era where a lot of these sort of tuning companies, engineering firms would take up these lucrative projects to work on these more unorthodox machines. Another great example was Emil Frey and their work with Jaguar to produce the XKG3. This is under its very flashy, almost, I'd say, Reventon-esque exterior, especially with the changes to those headlights. That is a Lamborghini Gallardo. Still using the same 5.2-litre naturally aspirated V10 engine that you would find in its younger brother, the Lamborghini Huracan. We've just got a very remarkable bit of news there. And we'll quickly just add that to... just to a little itinerary we've got here. so that we can discuss that in the news window. Ten minutes left to go in the session. Then Fate Galaxy in the time since has now gone fastest by 467 thousandths over his former teammate Carlos Dish. Brothers divide here. Former teammates at the 5-Star Esports team, they shared the 1-1-2 together over the console endurance series, and now there is a great fracture formed in some of 5-Star's newer talent. The 545 having left to Euro Titans. The 55 stays behind here with 5-Star Esports, and we've just seen there now recently up to second to form the basis of a 5-Star 1-2 is Tyler Vermack in the number 8. 9.5 minutes left to go then here in qualifying. I don't think we're far from over here. No, we are far from over, sorry. Getting ahead of myself. Getting a look at some of these gaps here. Get a look at this one here. Ellie Pocket versus Cas van Veltzen for 4th place is the scope of, get this, 3 thousandths of a second. 3 thousandths. I mean, we had in the qualifying predictions coming into today, you know it was good taking a look back at those quali predictions. Level on time was Dish and Vermack by a single thousandth, well, down to the thousandth actually, between the pair. And I think that is an incredibly rare thing to find on these quali predictions, considering that the drivers can be hammering away at times for the run into an event for up to a week. Usually here in the Sunday League, it's actually been 2 weeks due to the Easter break. And we've still ended up with a time perfect to the thousandth for control of 2nd place. So really do expect a lot of big moves coming up there between Dish and Vermack. There is going to be definitely the case of some argy-bargy here between the pair for control of the last of that front row, because Fate Galaxy is flying here at the circuit Zandvoort. Nearest the line, the 83 and the 17. So we watch on there, the 83 in front was Helmi. And then the 17 of Donkin stays in 8th place there as he crosses the line. Number 24 nearest, it's Noah Haggard with 5-Star Esports. From 9th place, stays there across the line. Nearest the line, the 855, Ellie Pocket with McLaren. Faced off against Michael Harris in Donington for what ended up becoming Harris's first win. Was so close for the 855. Showed great resolve over the course of both qualifying and the race itself. It just came to be the case where Harris had more pace at the end of the day. Pocket to the line, though, still holds on to a top 5 position. Their 4th fastest for McLaren at this time, as we see them down through turn 1. We are getting some very exciting news here, live on air. And we are very excited to share that with you in about 7.5 minutes time. 7.5 minutes time. Still, it's been a bit of a rough week. We're still quite ill. Very ill, as a matter of fact. Number 545 nearest the line. 485 thousandths from the fastest time here. Not too far off a shout of 2nd place, but can't find anything in that last lap. Is on to another set of flying laps here. 7 minutes left to go in the session. Nearest the line is Cas van Veltzen. Still fighting for the chances to be on that front 2 rows of this grid to give himself the best running start. And he goes up to 2nd there, up and ahead of Vermack. So what a resolve for the local talent here at Zandvoort for Cas van Veltzen. 2nd fastest by 325 thousandths to pole. And locally, getting a look there, that's in the ballpark of 53 thousandths between Van Veltzen and Vermack. The 2 BMWs razor thin for control of 2nd place. You see here with Vermack, a spot of bother for him down at turn 8 of Mastersbocht. He pulls into one side, he'll be back into the paddock. The 55 still out on track at the moment, the Ford of Fate Galaxy. Could it be redemption day for the Austrian talent? Of course, as we mentioned before, was robbed of his opportunity for his first ever Sunday League race win at race 2 of round 4. In our last visit to the double sprint format over in Bathurst, and what was arguably one of the most iconic rounds of this championship at large. Galaxy across the line, 135.172, stays 395 thousandths ahead now of Cas van Veltzen, opening the taps up just a little bit more in the number 55 Mustang. Speaking of Mustangs, here comes the 545, Carlos Dish On his way to the line here, already a 3-time winner in this series, 2 of which came out of Bathurst, 1 of which from the circuit, Paul Ricard, but in that last lap, just gone, stays 4th. Nearest to line, the number 8, but as it would appear for Tyler Vermack, it showed on our radars that this was an invalidated lap. We'll see if that is the case, though. Down to the line. So it was. Stays in behind Van Velzen. Behind him, the number 83. Across the line there from 14th, stays 14th. We can see rapidly approaching the line there, Ian Skeen. Sadly, no time found there for a move into the top 5 as we drop into the last 5 minutes of qualifying here for round 8. This, by the way, will dictate both grids for both races. 30-minute races back-to-back following up not long from now, as we see they're pulling to one side at turn 1. Noah Haggard in 9th place. 8.55 nearest the line, so here comes Pocket. Down to the line there. Sadly, no time found again here for the McLaren. Marks 3rd in the standing of the rookies here in qualifying. We're behind across the line a moment ago, staying in 7th place, Edinho Progino in the number 222 Reiter Engineering Lamborghini. And I've got to say, alias or otherwise, it is fantastic to see him back in this championship, even for a short trip here. What a bizarre choice of vehicle, and it really does go to show the level by which he has grown in GT in his time away, because he's been able to come back into this series with how airtight competition has been so far and get into a car that, by all accounts in the Assetto Corsa Competizione community, is somewhat of a meme. It's not a car meant to be taken seriously. It is one so uncompetitive in the current meta that you would never expect a top 10 time in this series. But that's the magic of the 222. That's what he can do. And it makes you wonder if he committed to a drive in Season 6 and chose something a little more to his tune, really. Say like a more modern vehicle, and this is, you know, obviously somewhat of a joke entry for him. He's just in it for some fun today, a bit of an exhibition run for Progino. But having a look at things, if he hopped in, say, for example, the Ford, the Ferrari, the BMW, the McLaren, who knows? Who knows what he could dig up in that championship? Just some food for thought there. Number 855 nearest the line, so here comes Pocket again. Less than 2/10 away from Carlos Diesch. Cross the line. Sadly, nothing to discuss there. We have been told, though, front row action inbound. That was from Cas van Velzen after taking 2nd fastest in the session. Of course, we saw that earlier on. And that was courtesy of Cas van Velzen, now also going under an alias here, Mystic Cass. Well, we're definitely seeing a bit of an interesting day for a lot of these drivers. Some of the fatigue of the season starting to set in a little too early for some, perhaps here. 2.5 minutes left to go. Still leading the session then, Fate Galaxy. When you consider here the case for Fate Galaxy, this is a man of multiple wins in multiple series, but one that has eluded him for the longest time here is the scope of the Sunday League. We've seen him multiple times on the Trot Take race wins over in VSR. This is one he has been pursuing with ruthless vigor over the course of Season 5. We saw him robbed of his opportunity in Bathurst. I think today could definitely stand upon sizable grounds to prove the naysayers wrong. That the 55 is capable in the Sunday League. At the moment then, it really does seem to be war on all fronts of that top 5, as we see the only driver not affiliated with either of the major parties competing from the front of that field is Ellie Pocket. As we see there, now jumping straight in the middle of them, up to 3rd. Now 410 thousandths away, that's 38 thousandths over Vermack, now 4th in this grid. Pocket to 3rd, now marks the front of the 2nd row. We'll be in front row seats to see Van Velzen v Galaxy down to turn 1 as we drop just close now to the last minute of qualifying here at round 8 of the championship. A sudden turn of events there for McLaren, now getting firmly into that top 5 after straddling towards the back of the top 5 for the longest time in qualifying today. All it took was one good go of it, and Pocket now finds herself in 3rd. what is going to be the case then for Vermaak? He crosses round turn 13, now turn 14 just in his sights as he crosses through Arie Luyendyk box onto his last flying lap. Needs to find a meager 38 thousandths of a second to get back up to third. Across the line he goes to start that last fated lap. It's all or nothing here for third for Tyler Vermaak. It could even be, considering its distance from Van Velzen, a chance to charge back up towards the front. We have word as well from Van Velzen. The Fate Galaxy is also transferring to Euro Titans, but it's not been confirmed on this grid just yet. So what we are possibly seeing here for Fate Galaxy is his swan song drive for 5-Star Esports. Of course, there was a great schism in the new talent over at 5-Star over the Easter break, and a lot of them have now jumped ship to the Euro Titans endurance team. Case in point has been there for Carlos Dish, who now actually mans the back of the top 5 here in a surprising turn of events, considering that his fight was primarily set to go up and against Kieran Rod in the rookie standings. We are strikingly without that, the absence of the number 61 today. He'll be out of this round, so the door's been left open for the arrival of Carlos Dish. We do just see there at the end of this session, the two Lamborghinis, only a thousandth apart. We'll wait to see confirmation on the future for Fate Galaxy. Right now, though, sporting the colours of 5-Star Esports, he is not too long away there from securing pole position. The only other driver on track that could have stood to challenge him at the moment is just trailing in his midst. Down through to the pit lane entry there. Vermaak peels in, so Fate Galaxy secures pole position here in Zandvoort in the number 55. Nearest the line, here comes Ian Skeen. Can he make his way to the top 5? He certainly has demonstrated solid pace over the course of this session. Peeling back into the pit, it's 6th place for now for Ian Skeen. Well, what an end to qualifying we've just seen there here in Season 5, Round 8 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Malwa Transport. What a drive then for Fate Galaxy. This is going to be an interesting scope of things for the next 2 races to follow, because this grid you're seeing now will dictate, looking back into the regulations for today, both of the 30-minute races set to follow here in Zandvoort at round 8, both of which, by the way, have a mandatory pit stop on open fuel strategy. That's technically 3.2 seconds minimum as things would stand. Before we get into the look of the grid, we do have some articles of news to discuss with the recent peel away from the World Rally Championships Rally Croatia. Takamoto Katsuta and Aaron Johnston win back-to-back now on their second career victories in the WRC in Croatia, peeling away from what was their first at the Safari Rally Kenya just a few weeks ago. They finished up and ahead of what was a gut-wrenching ending there for Thierry Neuville. He and co-driver Martin Vidager collided with a concrete block on the final stage of the rally, shattering the front suspension on the leading Hyundai only a few kilometers from the finish. Ultimately, that's what gave rise to Katsuta taking home his second consecutive victory in the 2026 World Rally Championship. In Rally 2 was also some interesting news there. Johan Rossell and Arnaud Dunant claimed victory for Lancia in Rally 2, marking not only Lancia's first ever Rally 2 win with the new to 2026 Ypsilon HF Rally 2, but it also marks Lancia's first win in the World Rally Championship for 34 years, with the 1992 Rally San Remo marking the Italian manufacturer's last win in a World Rally Championship event. And taking a look into very recent news. Now, you've heard it here first here on TRTN. We've just got confirmation. Christian Lebay will return to the NLRL Sunday League for Season 6, with already the chance for him to return with Aston Martin. We got this as we went live today, so you've heard it here first. Lebay to return for Season 6. We also have some rumours swirling here of a possible return as well of Melvin Milliston, but we'll wait for confirmation in the next couple of weeks. But you heard it here first. That's locked in. The 119 will return for Season 6. And for those of you who missed out on the news at the start of this broadcast, just before we get a look into the grid, Carlos Disch has recently joined the Euro Titans endurance team, with already rumours circulating that Fate Galaxy has done the same. Right now, though, for this round, he'll sport the colours of 5-Star Esports, but it could be something else when we get to Monza next week on the 19th. Taking a look at the grid then, for both grids of what stands here of Season 5, Round 8 of the NLRL Sunday League, is Fate Galaxy on pole position for both. He's up and ahead of Cas van Velzen in second place, with Ellie Pocket in third, Tyler Vermaak in fourth, and Carlos Disch, with his first drive for the Euro Titans endurance team in this series, in fifth. Alongside him then, a seasoned veteran and a veteran of the Euro Titans team itself, Ian Skeen, on the back of the third row in sixth place. Hedinio Proginio on his provisional drive here for Writer Engineering Lamborghini marks seventh place, up and ahead of that of Ben Cheeseman. Brooklyn Donkin in ninth and Noah Haggard in 10th place. Behind them, Jenkins in 11th, Helmy in 12th, Quito in 13th, Hart in 14th, Sanchez in 15th, Taylor in 16th, Belder in 17th, and Vlasov in 18th. Drivers to watch over the course of this event, of course, all of the new drivers there. So taking a look with the number 83 as well, one of the new drivers, Yaguta Helmy, keeping an eye out there for the number 83, also keeping an eye for the number 19 there of Teo Vlasov from the back of the field. And also keep an eye there on that 222 Writer of Proginio. But of course, that top five is heavy in those discussions. Galaxy, Van Velzen, Pocket, Vermaak, and Disch. And ear to the ground, though, as well. Definitely one to watch as well, Ian Skeen. So we've seen him claw his way up through the field on a multitude of occasions. It could very well prove to be another solid round on the horizon here for the number 696. He's got two opportunities to make that happen. So what we could very well come to see here, just based off of our last encounter with the double sprint format, this first race is where we're going to see the bulk of the action in the opening couple of laps. Do expect things to get very brazen. Do expect things to get very elbows out, because it will be in stark contrast to race 2 start in around 40-odd minutes time here, when adjusting for the breaks in between. So we're about to catch on board about a minute from the start of the formation lap here with Fate Galaxy in the number 55. We're also seeing some recent news pop in just now, actually. And it's a case here where there is now currently underway, for those of you in the server over on NLRL, the vote is now live for if the success ballast regulations survive to Season 6. So there are possible significant reforms to the regulations coming up for Season 6. We'll have more information on that as we get to the season finale 2 weeks from now, when we head in to round 10 of the championship. Getting a look on board then with that of Fate Galaxy, leading from the front. He's seen the front of the field before, and the double sprint format is already giving him somewhat of a bad feeling here today. He's had a great run of things in qualifying, so all he need do is keep his head low and out of trouble. Far fewer opportunities for things to go sour here in Zandvoort compared to the Mount Panorama circuit. We do see two drivers there from the pit lane for the start, Ben Hart and Hedinio Proginio. So BMW and Writer relegated to a pit lane start here for race 1 of 2. So we see peeling away there, Fate Galaxy from Cas van Velzen at the front of the field. Behind them, you see the likes of Ellie Pocket and Tyler Vermaak. As we get through the formation lap here on race 1, just some more developing information on the news that LeBay would return to Season 6. There is also the current wager on this grid that if the success ballast regulations are removed for Season 6, we could see the full unified return of the Malwar Racing team. Of course, the Season 3 team's champions. And speaking of the team's championships as well, just getting a quick glance in there. Of course, Season 3 was Malwar Racing. Season 4 was the Velocity Racing Team. Season 5, however, is still up in the air between 5-star and Euro Titans, but as it stands right now, even though we're not able to show you the exact measurements on how many points we have in the Teams Championship due to a formatting error with SimGrid today, we do know that Euro Titans is still in the lead, but 5-star stands ground to catch up, especially if they had to get on a solid drive today here from Fate Galaxy. In what we're told could very well be the last times we see him wearing the black and gold. Cas van Velzen looking fired up here on his home race. He is not looking to go down in front of the home crowd here without a very, very good fight. He'll be challenging that 55 all the way down through to turn 1. We already had word from him ahead of time as he claimed himself as Mystic Cas when he reported this one. Do expect some opening lap theatrics here. Big fight between these two coming up just around the corner. So cruising round turn 13 at Kumobot. 2 cars from the pit lane. Currently 16 cars on track, so that would make 8 either side of them. As we go down towards the line here, just after the Easter break, as we get in to the final 3 rounds of the championship. Starting off today, though, with race 1 of 2 of Season 5, Round 8 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Mauer Transport and live exclusively on TRTN. Rolling down to the line then here at the home of the Dutch Grand Prix for the 3rd and final time this week here on TRTN. Without further ado then, for the start of race 1, we're green and racing here in Zandvoort, and a great start from the front row already. You can see catching up from behind them, though. A brilliant start also to be expected there between Pocket and Vermac. On the run down through to turn 1, we see the 314 has to fall in behind the number 55. We see right alongside them there, squeezing round turn 1, is Ellie Pocket versus Tyler Vermac. They go 2 abreast there, down through to turn 2. It's contact between Vermac and Pocket. Vermac's in the grass, falls in behind Ian Skeen alongside Brooklyn Donkin, just onto the nose of his teammate in the 114. That's Ben Cheeseman. We also saw a little bit of trouble there further in behind. That was for Yaguta Helmi, getting a little bit squirrely there on the run down through turns 2 and 3 for the first time. But all things considered, a relatively clean start here in Zandvoort so far. Oh my word, I have to bite my tongue and wait just one moment. Oh my goodness, what on God's green earth happened up through the run of Hunsrug? You can see rocketing across there, it was Willow Taylor launching out past the wall. This was down at Slotmaker box. Also caught up in the fray was the 91 there, which was Ivan Sanchez for the race start. A disaster. I thought we got a little too good there through the opening sector. Evidently throwing an absolute fastball was the 387. I think what had likely happened on the run up towards turn 6, understeer into the wall, bounced violently back onto the track there, collided with Helmi and the 91 of Sanchez. And the moment then, Fate Galaxy leads away from Cas van Velzen with Ellie Pocket in 3rd, Ian Skeen now in 4th, Carlos Deesh in 5th, and Tyler Vermac in 6th place. Brooklyn Donkin in 7th with Ben Cheeseman in 8th, Noah Haggard in 9th, and JM Keto in the top 10. Kyle Jenkins with serious front-end damage will likely be into the pit lane then on this lap. The number 113 veers for the pit lane entry. We can see from behind there is Belder and Progenio. Progenio, who started from the pits, I should point out there, now already up to 12th place with his sights already set for 11th in the right. Round turn 1, he's made that one look easy. The 222 goes up to 11th place down through turn 1. Looking in here with this 3 spread of cars for Mac, Deesh and Skeen. Euro Titans versus 5-star at the back of the top 5 here. We see from Carlos Deesh's point of view, the number 8 right on his rear bumper down through turn 7. You can see up in front is the trailing end of that top 3. Deesh at the moment having fallen into 3rd in the rookies in category standings, 5th overall in the race. With the absence of the 2 other major parties of that top 3 being Meredith and Rod, the door has been left open here for Carlos Deesh, so long as he can finish inside of that top 3 in division alone over the course of either of today's races. He will be seeing significant grounds to move up to the lead of the rookies by the time we get to Monza at the penultimate round of the championship. closest battle we're seeing here among the top 10 for Mac versus Deesh at 0.2 of a second as they exit turn 14. It's worth pointing out, though, a little further down the field, we are starting to see some build-up into a fight here. Oh, into the wall goes JM Keto. Clatters the wall on the exit of turn 14. He's done well to keep the car in a straight line. We see in the background, slowly approaching for that chance of a top 10, Heidinho Proginio in the 222 Reiter Engineering Lamborghini on his run in towards lap 2. So we'll go and catch on board here if we can with that 545 on board here with Carlos Deesh. Yellow flags out as we see in the pit lane the 387 of Willow Taylor. Unsurprisingly so, given the scope of their incident down here on the run from turns 5 into turn 6. That was the site of it just earlier on as we stay on board here with the Ford of Carlos Deesh on his first ever drive for Euro Titans. Now having tucked in behind Ian Skeen. A race winner in his own right here on the Sunday League, all the way back in Season 2 with Aston Martin at Bathurst. Currently inside of that top 5. We see, though, challenging him for control of that 5th place is Tyler Vermaak as we go heading in towards Vodafone at turn 10. What we are seeing here very much so is that fight for 5th place playing out between BMW and Ford. The Mercedes just slowly peeling away there into 4th place and beyond as we head into turns 11 and 12. Vermaak still hunting there for position. We'll try to catch on board if we can here with that BMW just to get the attacking angle of things. As we already saw there, just a brief glimpse from the pit lane. Now on board here with Tyler Vermaak in the number 8 on his run down through to turn 1. Up in front there, you can see Ian Skeen still leading this 3-car charge down through turn 1. Not too far up the road there is Ellie Pocket in the 855 McLaren. 3rd place in this race at the moment, and as it would stand in 2nd in the rookies. Leading that race in both category and outright is the 55, the rookie drive of Fate Galaxy. So it was up through this section of the track here in particular. Now, as our theories would dictate, it looked to have been the case where Taylor had understeered out through turn 6, or it was a case where we also saw the 91 in there, so it could definitely be suggested maybe there was a collision between the 91 and the 387 up round turn 6, leading to that collision at the far side wall, bouncing violently back into the track there and collecting Helmy on the race start. But we did say if it was going to get brazen anywhere, oh, it was going to be here, and contact between Vermaak and Deesh on the run around turn 10. And we can see he's already slowing down to allow the 545 to get back up in front of him. We see there down through Vodafone. Looks for the inside, and that gap closed up just a little too late for him there, but by that point, he couldn't get any further down on the brakes. It's not looking grand for Tyler Vermaak at the moment. We see him now having fallen in behind Noah Haggard, with Carlos Deesh now down to 7th in this race. Vermaak drops to 9th. And further into the iron sights then of that rapidly approaching 222. Proginio now only some 4 seconds away from JM Keto, marking the back of that top 10. He's 7 seconds away from Vermaak at this time. We see here on board the newfound top 5 fight. It's Cheeseman versus Donkin in towards turn 1. On board with Brooklyn Donkin, brand new colour scheme if I'm not mistaken there, ditching the white colours on the 17. Oh, in the wall there, that's Skeen. That's Ian Skeen in the wall down at Hugenholz just before Hunsrug. The 696 is back in, and by looks of it, they're out of, actually, no, sorry, he's not back in. Disregard what I'm just saying there. He was just very close on the track map to the pit lane. We see the 696 is still on for this race, now having fallen in behind Proginio, has given the 222 its inside line to a top 10 here in race 1. It has been a disastrous start for some here in race 1 of 2. Ian Skeen, big trouble for him out from turn 2 now to turn 3. He exits turn, looking here, turn 8 as we enter sector 2 of this track. And that looked self-inflicted for the Mercedes, just came undone in sector 1. We found him there stranded at the far side wall down at Hugenholz at turn 3. Ultimately, that does boost this previous fight we were watching here for Cheeseman v Donkin. Now up to the scope of 4th place. We see the Carlos Deesh quickly recuperating on his losses here because he's not too far off a stab of a top 5 once again, with Cheeseman in his sights less than a second away in the 545. Watching on here with Donkin at the lead of this 3-car fight down through turn 14. Cheeseman about a second out. We see that the gap is getting much closer as Cheeseman dives to the pit lane. So early pit there for the 114. And that leaves Donkin out by his lonesome with Deesh, his new teammate at the Euro Titans Endurance team, not too far away. 1.6 seconds as they enter turn 1. Looking in behind as well, just speaking of the BMWs, we do have a very close pack of them down here. Haggard and Vermac, 1.2 seconds away from one another. Now, they're not likely at all to fight, given the situation they found themselves in. For Vermac, it has worked out in the end because that intended give back of the position out through turn 10 ultimately led to them dropping a few positions. We saw their big wobble for Tyler Vermac just before his exit of turn 7. So that could definitely suggest there is more than meets the eye here in terms of the damage that he ensued with that front end contact. Or maybe this is a comment more on the setup of the vehicle. It is looking very unstable. Now, BMW, we know, have a very sharp front end for a front engine car. They've got a lot of poke in the corners. Often the front end wants to play, the back end doesn't. So that might be something to consider here. That car does look incredibly loose on the setup for today. That's a far cry of what we've seen so far for Donkin. It's a very polarizing vehicle, the BMW. It's what captivated and snatched away the majority of attention when it first arrived onto the scene a few years ago on ACC. Now we see the car behind it is the one that's sort of taken the mantle away for one of the more overpowered and popular cars of ACC. It's the 7th generation Ford Mustang. To give an update on that recent pole opening, as we now see a move there, tactical swap of positions between Donkin and Deesh, trying to recuperate on losses there for points, knowing full well that Cass is still leading for their team. The Euro Titans number 314 currently second in this race. If we quickly catch on board here to see letting on through the 55 was the 113 of Kyle Jenkins. Fate Galaxy, though, has had this in the palm of his hand for just over the first 10.5 minutes of racing here, but never say never on something changing. Of course, Bathurst was a very quick teacher of that. Fortunately, though, for the 55, we're a long, long way from the land down under. Having a look in there and just quickly observing that gap again between Progenio and Keto. This was a case where that was in the ballpark of about 4 seconds when we last observed it, and now we see closing in rather rapidly, I should point out also, to just about over a second. Progenio doing all of this in a Reiter. I suppose I probably should also clarify, at least this is what they told us, that this is not, you know, big, and you can't see, but I'm doing the little finger sign here that they do for quoting. This is not Hayden Proger. This is Hayden Proger's Italian cousin. He transferred in from where, I don't know, maybe the Monday League, if such a thing exists. Down through turn 14. You've got to appreciate the bit, though, off of him. Down through then as Keto peels away to the pit lane. Progenio moves up to 8th. A very bizarre motor. You see here for Galaxy leading this confidently now by 4.3 seconds, and that gap really only seems to continue to rise between the Ford and the BMW here before we get into the scope of the session midway, coming up in about 2 minutes here, as time has really flied for this one when he's having fun. The 55 leading this session still has to do his mandatory pit stop, and we do see plenty more drivers in now. We saw JM Keto not long ago. Now we see Teo Vlasov into the pit lane as well, and the number 19, they're up to 13th in this race. We'll see, though, under strategy what that comes to be. Of course, Skeen is back out on track now. Fortunate news to hear there from the 696 Euro Titans Mercedes, as he's currently looking at a scope here of possibly 13th place. That could be more as well when you consider the pit stops still expected here from Ivan Sanchez up in front of him. That could still lead to a possible surprise top 10 here to turn things around for Ian Skeen. As it stands, though, as we approach the halfway of this race, we do just quickly observe here, after a bit of what looked to have been a bit of a hold-up under traffic, Van Velzen has dropped considerable lengths of time off to Ellie Pocket in the number 855. Let's go and catch on board if we can here with the 855 now entering the battle for second place. On board with the McLaren. It's up in front there. That BMW, something's looking sore about the 314 at this time. And he's lost a lot of time now off to Fake Galaxy. That's in the ballpark of 4.3 seconds still, but it is starting to rise here for him. 4.4, nearly 4.5 seconds trouble there out through turn 7. He runs very wide, and Pocket is gaining ground. In almost a switch reverse here of what ended up playing out between Harris and Pocket in Donington. We're starting to see here between Pocket and Van Velzen for second place here in Zandvoort in race 1 of 2 today. You see, though, at the moment for Van Velzen, he's been able to hold Pocket out at half a second arm's length here. It's down through turn 1 where that McLaren has just so much shove over the BMW at this time. It's all through sector 1 where Pocket's making the majority of her ground over Van Velzen. And it's out here from turn 2 to turn 3. Now she's right on top here of the 314. On the exit of the Hugenholt spot up towards Hunsrück. That's where the BMW starts to open the taps up here and peel away just before we get in towards turn 6 at Slotmaker and turn 7. You see, though, Pocket is not wasting any more chances, knowing that pit window is more than definitely open and that Van Velzen could escape from her by going into the pit lane now. She wants to make for certain sure that she's up and ahead of that 314. Down through to turn 9, Renault corner. Now Vodafone down towards turn 10. At McLaren, I'm seeing it in the way that it's being commanded at the moment. Ellie Pocket is sizing up Elite to the inside. He won't be here at the Hans Ernst box, formerly the Audi S's. We can see it, though, especially down at Sector 1. I'd say if she could keep her distance here by 0.3 of a second or closer, absolutely there could be the grounds to go up the inside at Tarzan. We see, though, coming into the pit lane, we see signalling to the right. That's Van Velzen. He's coming in. So Pocket will elect to stay out, moving up to second place. Fake Galaxy also staying out over the course of lap 10 of this race at the moment. Pocket up to second, Van Velzen into the pit lane. You see they're also in the paddock at this time. Willow Taylor and Ben Hart. 387 and the 40, two BMWs out of this race, but we see here the leading of the BMWs now into the paddock. We saw it was a stop and drop for the 314. He's already out, so that really stands a testament to how quick these pit stops have been so far. As right now, it has only been a case where Dish, Donkin and Progenio, so it would appear, have been the ones to get up and ahead of Van Velzen over his single pit stop in this race. Also into the pits at this time, just on his way out now. Again, a remarkably short stop there for Noah Haggard. Now 7th in this race. That'll be actually down a few, yes, to a 9th as it would stand. With Vermack and Cheeseman now up and ahead. So drivers still yet to come into the paddock here. Fake Galaxy, Ellie Pocket, Carlos Dish, Brooklyn Donkin, Hedinho Progenio, and Ivan Sanchez. We'll see, though, if that is the case for the number 55. Doesn't show any signs of it there with the amount of speed he was carrying out of Ari Luyendijk box. I really doubt it that it was going to be the case the 55 was coming in, but the 855, different story here for Pocket. Into the pit lane they go. Making sure that they don't overspeed here. You do not want to pick up a penalty on a track like this. Moreover, Definitely not on a race this short. With only 12 minutes left to go. Dish stays out. Donkin, same story. We'll see what the story is here for Proginio in the titular writer. Into the pits. The Italian cousin of former Sunday League driver Hayden Proger, who also competed in such feats as the GHR European Rally Championship. No affiliation. Down to the line then goes Proginio. Pocket is already back out there. Very quick stop for the 855. Dish stays out, of course. We saw that earlier. The 545. Up in second place at the moment. But it has been Galaxy's sort of game to play here. The ball's been in his court the entire race. With nearly 20 minutes covered. 10 minutes left to go. He's got one pit stop. And then it's foot to the floor. Nothing else for him matters at this time because he could stand upon the precipice here to become the 17th driver to win in the NLRL Sunday League and the first ever Austrian driver to do so as well. So he's really close to etching his name into the history books. He missed out on the chance in Bathurst. Not his fault in that situation. And it has been revenge so far today. We'll come to see. We see that Pocket has now lost a place out to Van Veltzen. So we saw that that stop was remarkably close there between the two. As it would stand, though, multiple seconds apart. So Cass has played that one very well under strategy today in race one. That'll be a lesson Pocket learns for race two. Now, unlike Donington, where they made their debut drive, this has definitely been much more of an upgrade over that. Two opportunities, of course, so that second go around, do expect to see even more lively racing than what we've already had to experience today here at the Circuit Zandvoort. Recent battle here forming up Cheeseman v Vermaak. Now unlikely to see anything too intense given that this is a fight among teammates. We've already seen that coordination is the A game here of the team's championship. What better team has demonstrated this so far over the course of today than that of Euro Titans, with Brooklyn Donkin moving over earlier on this race to allow Carlos Dish an easier path through to what currently stands as part of the podium. We'll see though with the integration of Pocket and Van Veltzen if this stays at the chances of a podium or if they will fizzle out towards the back of the top five. In terms of divisions though, Dish has this one wrapped up. Unless he was to suffer some kind of critical error for his car, he will still finish this race division third at the very worst of times right now. Waiting to see then from that top three. Fate Galaxy down through turn 13 at Kumo Box, then to turn 14 at Arie Luijendijk. Into the pit possibly here for the 55. We'll come to see if that is the case. No, not this time around either. So playing for the long game here. Trying to wear the rest of the grid out and make them come into the pits first is the modus operandi here of the 55. We'll see what the 545 thinks of it. Down through turn 14 here with Carlos Dish. And looks to be into the pit lane then for the Euro Titans 545 Mustang. Very quick stop in there. That looked like he carried quite a fair deal of speed. Could that be a possible penalty? He'll be hoping for certainly not. Brooklyn Donkin then moves up to second, staying out here on lap 13. In terms of nearby fights, not many in discussion. That recent one we were taking a look on with between Cheeseman and Vermaak has fizzled out to 1.6 seconds between the Lamborghini and the BMW. Navigating traffic courtesy of Helmi and Vlasov is Proginio. These two are in a close stead here for 15th, the two new BMWs on this grid. We see though on the exit of Arie Luijendijk, you could to Helmi putting a bit more of a gap there up over that of Teo Vlasov. We see for Carlos Dish now having dropped in behind Ellie Pocket, but only by, as it stands here, the scope of 2.5 seconds. So there is the chances in this race here of what is going to end up becoming, by looks of things here, the fight for third not long from now to kick off. It really does depend on what kind of longevity does that 545 have now in the trailing end of today's race. Of course, he's not taken tyres on, hence why his stop has been so fast. But again, that is a story reflected on the 855. Both of them staying on the original pair of tyres. They've been ragging them to the cords over the course of this race. Of course, nowhere near as much to run the risk of a puncture, but even in these shorter 30-minute races, the drivers do often throw away any due regard for the lifespan of their tyres, and often is where we get to see tyre temperatures reach their highest. That's not been helped over the course of this season by some of the more extreme conditions introduced in the last couple of months. Today here at Zandvoort as well is no exemption, because it's 40 degrees on track. This is something we failed to point out over the course of free practice or qualifying, but much like we saw in races like Laguna Seca last season, and even I believe this season as well, it has been searingly hot on some of these smaller tracks. It's 40 degrees here in Zandvoort. That definitely could explain a lot of those stability problems. We saw a few of them for Vermac. We saw case in point, one of the largest stability concerns was there for Ian Skeen when we saw him into the wall at turn 3. And it could very well have been stability concerns that caused that incident at the start between the 387, the 19 and the 40. Not the 19, the 91 and the 40. In terms of that gap, Pocket from Deesh about 2.5 seconds still. Now 2.4 as they make their way round turn 8. 6 minutes left to go then here, and still currently no word over that pit stop from the 55. Looking around the field, as that is emerging to be one of the closer fights at the moment, but it is worth keeping an eye here for Noah Haggard versus Heidinho Proginho. 2.5 seconds, much like what we saw there, the case of Pocket versus Deesh at this time. We see into the pit lane goes Brooklyn Donkin in the number 17. And that will advance Van Velzen to second place in this race at the moment. His sights firmly set upon the chance to be in the race lead, but it is going to be a tough one, given how well the 55 has played over the course of this race. We see there for Carlos Deesh a bit of a step out from turn 14. Core temp starting to get a little bit on the higher side in the trailing end of today's race. 25 minutes covered, 5 minutes left to go in race 1 of 2 here at round 8. Here's the onboard from the leading 55, heading down through sector 3. Onboard once again then with Fate Galaxy at the forefront of racing today here in race 1 of round 8 of the NLRL Sunday League Season 5. We see there into the pit lane goes the 55, so finally at long last here, nearly 26 minutes of the race covered before he came into the pit lane. The 55 is in, but now the Requiem Knell has been rung for the 314. It's now or never for Cas Van Velzen. Has what he's laid in foundation here over the course of today's strategy for race 1 going to play out for him. We see how quickly these stops are. As already stationary is the 55, and will we see him come back out? There he goes. So already off his jacks and on his way. And as he does that, the 314 rounds turn 14, but over the limiter lines, crosses the 55 out of the pit lane and down towards turn 1. Van Velzen just having crossed onto the opening straight here, so misses out on his chances, but still has the momentum over the 55. And we'll see how that builds over the course of the last couple of laps of this race. Just under 6 seconds then between Van Velzen and Galaxy, with the Austrian talent still leading the race here in the 55, looking at his chances for his first ever Sunday League victory. Roughly 2 laps for him left to go before the end of today's race. We see here with the emerging fight between Haggard and Proginho, 1.5 seconds now, down from 2.5. It has been a fascinating discussion here for that writer to have gone into the top 10 here in Season 5, albeit on a much smaller grid than we were expecting today. So hopefully grid numbers will be a little bit more on the livelier side when we head in towards the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza at Season 5, Round 9. You see there for Ian Skeen getting up and ahead of JM Quito down at turn 1. Moves up into 10th place, so it is somewhat of a redemption drive here for Skeen. We see the number 19 in trouble. That's Vlasov, stranded across the track there, just out of turn 2. Much similar position to what Skeen found himself in not too long ago here in race 1. The number 19 does continue to bring out the yellow flags, so it is a great deal of concern here as we see in another emerging fight, Jenkins versus Sanchez. That number 19 again still stranded as approaches the McLaren and the Ferrari down through to Hugenholt's spot. I believe we've just got word that the number 19 is now back up in the runnings of things, but couldn't come any closer there to interceding on the leading 55. As we are on the penultimate lap of this race here in race 1 of 2. One more lap after this. Fate Galaxy could very well see him as part of the winner's circle here in the NLRL Sunday League, the 17th driver to do so. All of that will be revealed in time, though. Only one more lap after the one we're on here. Looking on board here with Jenkins v Sanchez just picking back up where they left off as they get closer to nearly just a second between the pair. Having a look at some of the other fights as well going on. Progenio now in closing range here on Haggard. Down through turn 3, heading up through to turn 4 at Hunsrück. Reiter versus the BMW could very well spill over into the last lap of racing here in Zandvoort for race 1 of 2. Bear in mind, the grid that we started off with today will be the same one we find for the start of race 2. So there is somewhat of that hard reset for the grid heading into that second round. It's what stresses the importance on qualifying times for these double sprint rounds. So we continue to watch on board here with these two. We are keeping close eye there for the 55. Goes side by side at the moment with the number 19 heading down through to turn 1. Teo Vlasov close but no cigar there on staying with the 55 as he starts his final lap of racing. We go back on board then to see Progenio versus Haggard. As they go on to their final lap of racing, it could very well be the staging point for a move to 8th place here for Hedinio Progenio with Reiter Engineering. Down through to turn 13. We'll be catching on board with that 55 not too long from now, but this is one of the closest fights on track. There is also another one playing out at the same time here. Jenkins v Sanchez for 13th place. So two fights here for the price of one in the trailing end of race 1 of 2 here at round 8 of the championship. Looking to go around the outside there. Trying for a switchback is Progenio. Can't find the grounds for it. Limited by the technology of his time. The Reiter Engineering REX GT3 going toe-to-toe with a top-of-the-line BMW M4. Clash of the ages there. One of the oldest cars on the grid versus one of the newest. We'll catch on with them in a moment's time as we see here down through turn 11 and 12. Just making his way down to the last couple of corners here in race 1. We are just going to quickly glance across again at the 222 and the 24. We do see a spot bobber for the 19 down at the very same section, but down to the line then on board here with Fate Galaxy. It's redemption from Bathurst. The woes of round 4 finally quenched here in round 8 of the championship. Across the line then, Fate Galaxy wins in race 1 of 2. The first Austrian driver ever to win in the NLRL Sunday League. Race winner number 17 in the history of this series. The number 55 of Fate Galaxy. He wins not only outright in race 1, but also wins in the rookies with Van Velsen second, Pocket third, Deesh in 4th, Vermaak in 5th. We do see there trouble in the background. I believe that is, yes, the 91. That's Sanchez in serious trouble. Donkin for 6th place, Cheeseman for 7th. And now we see the spillover point here. In the fight of Haggard v Progenio. Haggard has held him off masterfully well there. The 24 down to the line for 8th place. Progenio in a close 9th. And as it would stand then, approaching turn 13 and turn 14, the end of race 1 of 2 today, then great turnaround amidst early woes there for the 696 of Ian Skeen. Has turned this one back into a top 10, albeit not the position he wanted to be in at the end of this race, but one I imagine he'll be able to settle for given what circumstances he played against here in race 1. Down to the line then, Skeen for 10th place, JM Quito for 11th. And Sergio Belder for 12th as things would stand, as a huge gap has now formed up for Jenkins following that incident as well for Sanchez, who now finishes officially 14th for this race. Quito for 11th, Belder for 12th, and we see here for Kyle Jenkins will be 13th for the end of race 1. Your race winner though, the 55 in spectacular fashion. We can't sadly see him. Looking in with the paddock, we can see the rest of the field there. Across the line goes the 113 to finish off race 1. Fate Galaxy then, your race winner. The first ever Austrian driver to do so. So, running on a series of firsts, we got to see the first wins out of many a driver here. Carlos Disch and that of Michael Harris in the last couple of weeks. And now we get another onto the list here for Season 5. Fate Galaxy takes his first ever Sunday League win here in Race 1. Winning team then, 5-Star Esports. Very closely followed, I should point out there, by Euro Titans Endurance. And if this is believed to be among the last times he'll drive under 5-star colours, it has been certainly a very good start to things here in the double sprint at Zandvoort. So don't go anywhere. We still have one more race to discuss here just after the checkered flag of race 1. Taking a look back into the regulations for today. We are on to race 2 now. 30 minutes of racing to follow, following much in the same format as what we have just laid witness to here in the last 30 minutes. To give an update then, before we see the formation of grid number 2 today, getting a look at the current votes out there for the return of the success ballast regulations for Season 6. What we do understand at this time that there will be changes to it if it does return, to allow for the weight to decay, so that drivers won't be holding on to 17 to 20 kilos all season long. It will be a case where that weight starts to filter away, with scaling almost with the results themselves. However, in the current votes right now, 60% vote in favour, 40% vote against. So a surprising turnaround here, given the controversy that has existed surrounding the success ballast regulations. Obviously, was one of the driving points as to why we no longer have some of our championship drivers in this series, with the most recent departure of Melvin Milliston. It's a very controversial subject to discuss here on TRTN about those success ballast regulations, because you could definitely make the argument that it has created a much more diverse win list, but it's come at the chagrin of drivers who are already consistently doing well. But then you've got counterpoints to this. Look at Cas van Velzen. He's routinely placing on podiums. He's got his own race wins over the course of this season. He picked one up as far back as round 1. But you can make the argument, even in spite of the fact that he has yet to pick up on another win so far before today, with there still being the chance here with him starting on that front row once again alongside Fate Galaxy, he's been able to put in routinely consistent enough results to continue to lead the championship overall. So I'm not 100% convinced that it's a detriment, nor am I convinced that it's necessarily a benefit to the series. I'm quite grey on this situation. I don't think that you can really gun these sort of things by a black and white situation. It has to be a nice shade of grey in the middle. So getting a look at that grid then, just under 3 minutes before the start of formation lap number 2 here for race 2 of round 8. Another 30 minutes set to follow here in Zandvoort before we wrap up for this week of broadcasting. Fate Galaxy starts once again from pole position. Cas van Velzen second, Ellie Pocket third, Vermaat fourth, Disch fifth, Skeen sixth, Progenio seventh, Cheeseman eighth, Donkin ninth, and Haggard in 10th, Jenkins in 11th, Helmy 12th, Quito in 13th, Hart in 14th, Sanchez 15th, Taylor 16th, Belder 17th, and Vlasov in 18th. So 9 cars either side of it for the start of the formation lap in about 2 minutes time here. Now, learning the lessons from the past, it is going to be a case here where Van Velzen has to really get his elbows out on that race start. He was expecting a lot more theatrics on the run down through to turn 1, but Galaxy did have a phenomenal start in this race just gone. So he's got some very stiff competition on that front row, and even more so from behind as well, when we saw the start from Pocket and Vermaat squeezing their way down through turns 2 and 3. There was that early instance of contact between the pair, and I have no doubts in my mind, given how closely matched for pace those two had demonstrated their ability to be over the course of this race, I don't doubt that we're going to be seeing that again in quite a fair few variety here for race 2. So then waiting now, just under a minute left to go. We'll be catching on board with the leading 55 for, again, the run of the formation lap at about 20 seconds time here. for race 2 of round 8. Now, looking forward to the road ahead, the next round coming up after today, and we'll bring this back up at the end of our broadcast today, will be on the 19th with the NLRL Sunday League. We head over to round 9 at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza for the last 60-minute race of the season. Then we round things out on an endurance race at round 10 on the 26th over at the Alton Park circuit. So on board now with Fate Galaxy in the 55, already having claimed a race win today, now enters the history books here on the Sunday League after race number 52. Race number 53 just around the corner. And Galaxy, could he go back-to-back for victories here? Would not be the first time. I believe, yes, we've just got confirmation as well. An issue with his user interface is what's forced Progenio into the pit lane. Now, I'm a little confused as to why NWR Skyler, who we know as Hayden Proger, is chiming in on behalf of Progenio. You know, maybe he's looking out for his quote-unquote Italian cousin. On board then with Galaxy as we begin the formation lap down through to turn 1. Looking around that field then, we could see just sandwiched out of that top 10 at the moment, just tucked in behind Haggard is Jenkins. Yeah, I see now, yeah. Just word in there from Race Control that NWR Skyler in our Twitch chat, otherwise Hayden Proger, is stepping in as a translator, yeah, for his Italian cousin Haydenio Progenio, which totally is not him in a mask. Sure, you know, I believe you, I believe you. Making our way then down through to turn 8. Still on board then with that 55. We can see tucked in behind him is the 314. Getting a look in here for the point of view of Cas van Veltzen. Starting second in this race, has got a very eager second row tucked in behind him. We saw some great progress over the course of today from Ellie Pocket. Definitely had the pace to challenge Van Veltzen. We'll see though if she can find that over the course of race 2 with McLaren. Still delivered on a great result then in race 1. Following on a series of podiums now, having started back in Donington at round 7 of the championship in a fight with Michael Harris, who went on to take the 16th unique named race win. That was his career first. We've just seen the career first today then for Fate Galaxy in the Sunday League. It was only a matter of time, really. Knowing that he had been coming in for Season 5, and we've seen what he's been able to do over on VSR 4 times in a row, race winning in the trailing end of Season 10, it was really only a matter of when. Making their way then down through turn 13 and turn 14. As it would stand then, 2 cars from the pit lane now with recent developments there from the 696. Ian Skeen will start from the paddock here for race 2 of round 8. So that marks 16 cars on the grid, 8 either side, of which 2 from the pit lane. Rolling down to the line then, 30 minutes of racing to follow in race 2 of round 8 of season 5 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Malwa Transport and live exclusively on TRTM for the last time today then, here this week from Zandvoort, what has been now the 4th race we've had here at the home of the Dutch Grand Prix. Without further ado then, here for race 2, 30 minutes on the line. We're Green and Racing here in the Netherlands for the last time this week. And we see a brilliant start down the order there as we already see some argy-bargy amongst the BMWs. Brooklyn Donkin turned around and into the wall goes the BMW number 17. Oh my goodness gracious me, a disastrous start there for Brooklyn Donkin. Turned around into the wall on the race start there. I believe that might have been from one of the, yes, that's one of the new drivers on the field, the number 83. Oh, no, no, no. This has gone horribly, horribly wrong for them. We really thought it would have been a cleaner start to the race here, but it's been a case that Yaguta Helmi has turned, by the looks of things there, the 17 into the wall. It could definitely have been a case where maybe he stepped out of line in his course to try and hold off multiple drivers on the field. We see here with Tyler Vermaak As looking on with the lead of this race, you can see getting very close now is Van Velzen over Galaxy, and right close to behind them is Pocket and Vermac. Behind them is Carlos Dish. So an ultra thin margin there, dividing front from back the top 5. We see that Ben Cheeseman is not too far away from them in 6th place for the start of race 2. Getting a look there briefly in with Brooklyn Donkin. You can see the scope of the damage. He came into the wall very, very hard there. It was a nasty, nasty hit for him. Watching here with Ellie Pocket down through the Hans Ernst box, turns 11 and 12. She's got front row tickets here to that fight at the lead of the race. Galaxy and Van Velzen much closer on this start than they were on the last, but she's got bigger fish to fry with Vermac right on her tail. Down through turn 14, on board with the McLaren, fighting what is technically for 3rd at this time against Tyler Vermac on the opening straight. Bear in mind, again, front row tickets for that leading fight. If anything is to happen on that front row, she'll be first to know about it. And here we go then for a fight of 2nd place. Running wide was Van Velzen at turn 1. That invites Pocket in to fight for 2nd, along with Vermac. Not too far behind them at all is Carlos Dish. You can see there the Euro Titans Mustang tucked in at the back of the top 5. Behind him on the 3rd row is Ben Cheeseman. As we see peeling away after that slip up by the 314, it's the 55 out through Hunserug. Fake Galaxy now a full 2nd up over Cass Van Velzen, who's got just under half a second to this one here, the 855 of Ellie Pocket. Now, I'd say more realistically, is back into fighting for 3rd. The number 26 has a stop-go for speeding in the pit lane. Already trouble for Holkianos Motorsports here in race 2. The number 17 is back in the paddock. Then Brooklyn Donkin, after a disastrous start to race 2, turned in at the wall there by Yoguta Helmi in the 83. Up and around Vodafone, in towards turn 11 and turn 12. We can see Tyler Vermac is gunning for a look on the inside here, a little too far away to make that one stick. We see Ellie Pocket going late onto the brakes there. Up and around turn 12, still trying to put pressure on the 314 in front. We see it as getting very, very close. They're packed in like sardines towards the back of the top 5. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and then we also see 6th trailing in the background there, getting very, very close indeed. Getting a look in, if we can, with some of the other cars fighting in today's race. You see here from the point of view of Van Velzen, but I want to get a look on board if we can here with Tyler Vermac. He's caught between a rock and a hard place here. He's trying to fight for that podium, but he's got the 545 right on his rear bumper as we exit turn 1, down through turn 2 at Gerlach box, in towards turn 3, down at the Hugenholz box. Running a little bit deep into that corner. Again, he is allowing that 545s slowly but surely into his rear view mirror. Having dropped away a little bit, there's the 114 in the background, Ben Cheeseman with 5-star Esports Lamborghini. Currently 6th in this race, up and ahead of Haggard. Getting a look at that standing order, though, after what has been a very troubled start for quite a few. We also saw caught up in that opening fray was Progenio, now 14th in this race. He's chasing down Sergio Belda in front for 13th place at this time. The bulk of our fighting, though, is encapsulated in the top 5 right now. Carlos Dish versus Tyler Vermac versus Ellie Pocket versus Cass Van Velzen. The only driver not in that top 5 involved in this fighting anymore has already put nearly 2 seconds up over Van Velzen. It's Fake Galaxy gunning for what could very well be back-to-back victories, mirroring the qualities of what we saw for Carlos Dish 4 rounds ago. The double sprints, evidently a format designed to bring as many opportunities to the table for multiple different race winners, has been dominated by single names so far. The last double sprint was dominated by Dish. So far, Galaxy looks to carry the torch on from the 545, and the number 55, he was alongside him on that fated incident at the start of race 1 over in the Bathurst double sprint. Now today will lead this confidently by more than 2 seconds. We see here Pocket v Vermac v Dish. A very tight spread there between these three, looking in towards Hugenholz box there. Dish stabbed his way to the inside, couldn't find any ground for it, so we stay on board here with Vermac as Dish takes a bit of a dive there onto the grass and drops a bit of distance away. Still only half a second, though, between himself and Tyler Vermac. Staying on board then with the BMW as we go barreling down from turn 6 now to turn 7. He's got to make sure he doesn't run deep into this corner because that 545 could sweep back in and close that gap down very, very quickly. Vermac then fighting for a podium here in Zandvoort. BMW versus McLaren versus Ford in that spread there at the back of the top 5. It's been a frustrating start then to this race for Van Velzen. He certainly had the pace on the opening lap, but he's quickly burned himself out of it. And it was that one tiny mistake up against what has so far been flawless driving from the 55 that has kept him away from his chances to engage further for the race lead. Right now, he's just trying to shake off the rest of the top 5, let alone continue his charge up to the lead. Back on that in a moment's time, though. We do have yellow flags out for the number 19. I believe that is Vlasov in trouble. Yes, it was. Out from turn 8. Getting a look here with the BMW. Doesn't look to be any major damages, but it is a little scuffled up there at the front. Likely a case then that they've run off track at this time. Getting a look in with another fight emerging here as we're back in the green flag conditions. Ben Hart versus Ian Skeen. Now, it's worth pointing out, both Skeen and Progenio started in the back of the field. They started from the pit lane, and as things would stand right now, Skeen is looking for his chances to advance up to 8th place on the inside there of Hart in the number 40. The BMW attempting a switch back on the Mercedes as we go down through to turn 2 here. On board with Ian Skeen. Nearly coming undone there. Same area that he saw some troubles over the course of race 1 in. Right now, though, moves up to 8th place. Not too far away at this time, then. Progenio now into the top 10, up and ahead of Willow Taylor. They're keeping their head low after race 1. Sergio Belda closing on distance there. Out through Hunsrück. Looking in here with Vermaak v Pocket once again. Less than 0.3 of a second between the pair, but it also is worth pointing out here. Look at the distance being drawn in between Pocket and Van Velzen. Hot pursuit then from the 855. We'll go to catch on board with that McLaren down through to turn 11 and 12. Ellie Pocket could be sizing up a chance here for a possible 2nd place. Now, more on that in just a moment's time. We do want to catch on board here. We see a bit of argy-bargy for Ben Hart and Brooklyn Donkin. Not a clue what's going on there, my word. What on earth was he doing? I say that more in regards to Donkin. I mean, he was showing the blue flags. Get a look at this. And as we caught on with them, I mean, it's like watching 2 British people try and squeeze out of an elevator. It's all, no, you first, and then it always ends up in trouble. Not a Scooby. What's going on there between those two? Absolutely baffled. Seeing here, though, with the fight of 9th place, Ben Hart versus Heidenio Progenio. The rider looking on the inside, down through to turn 1. Leaping for it goes Progenio in the 222 over the 40. We see there, aiming at a switchback, but running up over that inside curb, albeit with quite a great deal of desync there, so we weren't able to make out the specifics of it. And having lost out the position nonetheless is Hart now down through to turn 3. Frustrating stuff for that number 40. Looking on here as we see in the foreground, going out wide is Van Velzen. Can he hold the car? My word, he does. How on earth has Van Velzen done that? Pocket up to 2nd. Vermaak looking on the inside at Renault corner for 3rd place. Carlos Diesch could be having this one off of him for a possible 4th. What a bit of car control there from Cas Van Velzen. That would have more than definitely ended the race for multiple other drivers. Van Velzen absolutely locked in after that incident at turn 7 to keep the car going. Not for nothing here if Van Velzen doesn't like his chances in GT racing. Know that he's got a very sizable career lined up in rally. More trouble down at turn 9, the 387, Willow Taylor. That's the same time in 2 laps now that that's happened for them. Making their way down to the line then. Recent change of regime up in the top 3. Ellie Pocket now to 2nd. Tyler Vermaak on the podium. We see in the background there, looking for his chances, was Carlos Diesch over Cas Van Velzen. And what has been a very tough race now for that 314. He looks to have burnt his tyres out in the opening 10 minutes, trying to play things more aggressively, but it's just not been the call for the 314 at this time. I'm still enamoured on how he was able to keep the car going there down at turn 7. Most drivers would have folded, but not Van Velzen. It's been a struggle for him here, and it could be his championship hopes in jeopardy. That stays lively in his favour so long as he can stay up and ahead here of Carlos Diesch. All that matters in the overall championship, which is the one that's primarily discussed here since the introduction of the Rookies Championship, as we don't often discuss the pro standings unless we absolutely have to. See running wide there, Carlos Diesch, big trouble for the 545 as he's going to lose even more time off to Van Velzen. Galaxy now leading by a full 5 seconds over Pocket in second place. The two rookies leading that charge then, a mirror match of what we've been seeing out through Donington over the course of the last round of the championship just gone. The two rookies led the charge outright. Hang on just a tick though, that's the 855. Ellie Pocket in trouble down at turn 11. Stranded at the Hans Ernst box. The 855 in serious trouble there. Jeopardy for McLaren. We see in the background Haggard v Skeen kicking off, so we'll go to catch on board with those two. On board here with Ian Skeen. Ian Skeen already having fought before with some of the BMWs of this grid. Having fought with Ben Hart not too long ago. Now sets his sights on Noah Haggard. Look at the closing speed that the Mercedes has there over the BMW. A car that is normally praised for its straight line speed is really being put out to pasture by Mercedes AMG. Down through turn one, albeit to the outside there. Sadly, no grounds for a move, but that is quite the warning sign from Mercedes on the opening straight. Just how quickly it was able to break the distance down. We are approaching that bulk window for pit stops here at the halfway mark, but as we saw before from the number 55, he's willing to toe the line all the way down to the last 5, even 4 minutes of racing here in the 30-minute format. Watching here with Ian Skeen versus Noah Haggard, 6th place up for grabs between the pair. We stay on board with the AMG. A much livelier race this time around for Ian Skeen against the woes of race 1, which saw him into the wall at turn 3 very early in that race and spent the rest of race 1 trying to make up for it there. Ultimately finished in the top 10 by the end of that race, so did turn things around in his favour. Skeen definitely with more opportunities than the last race to get elbows out and fight with some drivers here. He's already had some fighting with Hart earlier on to get up into 7th place. We see they're approaching as well. Another driver who fought with Hart is Progenio. 2.2 seconds and closing. We could have a third party here on the fight of 6th place. More on that in a moment. We go back on board with Skeen to watch again that closing distance. It is absolutely crazy. 6.3 litre naturally aspirated Mercedes AMG V8 engine. Same one from the SLS. With acceleration like that, I think we're thinking of a completely different SLS, the one used by NASA, because that is rocket ship level stuff from Ian Skeen. Progenio is being given a green light here to proceed up towards this fight. He's now closed things down by another 0.4 of a second in the time last observed, from 2.2 seconds to 1.8. And as we speak, that's down to 1.7 as we exit turn 7. Back on board with these two in a moment's time, getting a look here with another fight going on at this time. After the incident there for the 855 of Ellie Pocket, that sees her drop down to 11th place. Currently fighting then with Sergio Belder, as things would stand, or maybe not for that matter. I think it has been a case here where the 855 has come into the paddock and is now back into the top 10, having served a very early pit stop there after her woes at turns 11 and 12. Now looking to return to that top 10 not long from now. We see here side by side between Haggard and Skeen. Very well held there. That's experience on display from the 696, but don't get too cocky on the exit of the Hans Ernst box. Now with a clear line of sight on his run down the opening straight, we'll get to see that 6.3 litre really do what it does best here in Zandvoort. Singing around turn 14. Into the pit lane goes Noah Haggard. In the number 24, Progenio elects to stay out. Now closing by less than 2 seconds to Ian Skeen. Getting a look in here with the fighting.
At the halfway mark, keep pushing.
At the halfway mark of the race, Carlos Stiesch still stands within the margins to return to the podium here in Zandvoort. Up in front of him, Cas van Velzen and Tyler Vermaak, the two BMWs, 3rd and 2nd respectively. Fake Galaxy, though, is leading this one again by a country mile. He could very well be on the charts here to go back-to-back here in Zandvoort. Already having collected on his maiden Sunday League victory in race 1. Became the 17th driver ever to win in this series. Could very well pick up his 2nd, mirroring the same drive we saw in the last double sprint by his former teammate, Carlos Stiesch. That could again be future teammate with the rumours we've been hearing over the 55. You've seen there in chat, it's quite a funny comment there from 5-star Jupiter. Due to budget cuts at NASA, they're going to replace the SLS booster with Ian Skeen's Mercedes GT3 car in order to get them to the moon. I mean, with acceleration like that, you could definitely hope to count on it. It is a remarkable setup he's got there on that AMG. He's stuck with his guns there on the choice to move to Mercedes. It was quite a confusing one at the time. He's stuck to his guns, and you can really see in a day like this, he's being rewarded tenfold for his commitment to AMG. Van Velten's into the paddock then. We also see in the paddock at the moment is Brooklyn Donkin. After his very early doors incident, I think it's safe to say the 17 is out of today's race. We also see here some close fighting. Taylor versus Vlasov. The two BMWs at the back of the field there for 16th on the grid, out through turn 14. Going into the pits in front of them there was the, I believe, having a glance, that was the number 40. That was Ben Hart. Side by side between Taylor and Vlasov, down to turn 1. Taylor later on the brakes there. Vlasov falls in behind. Progenio also in as well with Reiter Engineering Lamborghini. We hear the sound there of another Lamborghini passing them up. That's Ben Cheeseman. The last of a dying species there, the Lamborghini. The 5.2 litre V10 Lamborghinis, I should say. The Temerario has made sure that the V10 would not see the end of this decade. And now we see the last two examples of them, the Huracan and the Gallardo. You see for Ben Hart, though, trouble for the 40. Stop go 30 for speeding in the pit lane during the course of his pit stop there. So it's gone from bad to worse for the 40. He will be likely then to drop out of that top 10 entirely, as we just see that confirmation. He's already out of that top 10, so really can't get much worse for him at this time. For Jenkins versus Haggard, we're seeing here the process of a fight forming up, but of course these are teammates of the 5-star esports team, so it's unlikely we'll be seeing anything a little too extreme, though I imagine you could have said the same for the start of the 6 hours of Monza, but evidently that message doesn't get out to everyone on the same team. On board here with the 113, still pursuing Haggard. It has been quite a bizarre thing to see then. Haggard is, of course, driving in one of the Academy cars for 5-star, so he is classified by team's regulations as a development drive, which is a curious thing to consider because Haggard competed all the way back in Season 1 and Season 2 of the NLRL Sunday League. And I believe also did those seasons with BMW, so I think it's a case where he sort of had to polish the dust off of the BMW here when he got back into racing for Season 5 and wanted to take things a little lighter and work more on the development side of things, which you can see there, the black and red livery signifies the mainline 5-star esports drivers for ACC, that being Kyle Jenkins, who just gets up and around there, allowed on through at turn 1 by the 24. You see behind them, Progenio was, worth pointing out there, stopped for quite some time on this grid. Now, normally where we've seen pit stops to be very, very quick in this format, the 222 was stopped for quite some time. That's what's led to him being towards the back of that top 10 at the moment. But as we see up in front, he's closing distance on these two very, very quickly. So there is a great chance for him to advance back up to what could very well be, if he plays his card right here in the next 10 minutes, the scope of 8th place. We also got more words in there from 5-star Jupiter, so that actually does give us a bit of an insight on how things work over at the 5-star esports team. It's also based off of hot stint results. So I imagine then they're going through some kind of process where they're submitting a hot stint and a categorized mainline or academy based off of their performance. So it was a case that in the sort of time that he spent away from full-time commitments to racing, like we had in the early seasons of the Sunday League, Haggard has lost a little bit of that pace, but we can see that he is swiftly working his way back up to it, so we could very well be seeing him racing in black in Season 6. We'll come to see, though, if that's wholeheartedly the case right now. We see that 113 already having to pick up the slack here, advancing up from 8th, trying to put nearly a full second out up over Haggard, knowing he's effectively thrown his teammate to the Sharks, and Progenio is quick on the trails here to take up the challenge of 9th place. In terms of that front, taking a look in here with Galaxy, leading that charge still, 9.2 seconds up over Vermac. 5-star leading this race 1 and 2 here in race 2 at the moment. Euro Titans 3rd through 5th. Van Velzen, though, with that earlier pit stop strategy, could play very nicely into his hands. He is still gunning for a podium. His main objective right now is to be ahead of that 5:45 by any means necessary, because that's what's preserving his championship lead. And we said this towards the start of the season, that this looked to have been the most fired up start of a season we'd seen out of Van Velzen. And now as we're entering its twilight chapter, I don't think we've seen Van Velzen more on edge. I'd say maybe the closest we got was the trailing end of Season 3 in that three-way fight between Millerstone, Van Velzen and Vermaak for the title in Silverstone. You could have made the argument there, but this is really quite a drive on the edge here. And it's quite surprising to see as well, because when you consider what we understand about Van Velzen and his stance on competition here on ACC, it's a case where he doesn't really come into these championships expecting to run away with a championship lead or to win in the championship. He is a very down-to-earth sort of approach to things. He gets into these races simply because he likes to do it. He's very intrinsically motivated by what it is that he does in this sport. He's not looking to pick up on X, Y, and Z result or this number of championships. It's very organic, surprisingly so here, and what is top of the line, I'd say, for console level sim racing and esports. Now, of course, we don't know whether or not, and just getting back on board there with Van Velzen, we don't know yet if that stance has changed since, but that was what we gathered in the limited number of conversations we've had or chats we've seen from him in the past. That it's a case where he has a very down-to-earth approach to things in these series, and often it just, rolls with the punches and gets what he's given in these series. And as we've seen over the course of Season 5, what he's been getting is a lot of solid results. And what he has at the moment is the championship lead in the palm of his hands. We've just seen their recent moves against Haggard. Progenio now to 9th. We also saw as well, for a run into the pit lane earlier on, was for that, I believe, of Ian Skeen. Now drops in behind Ben Cheeseman. It's been a very solid drive, I must point out there, by Ian Skeen. I would be, just getting back on the subject as well, when we were speaking there about Van Velzen, we would be fascinated to speak with him again towards the end of the season. And, ooh, just a bit of a tap there with lap traffic. Trying to keep things nice and level here. It just needs the strategy to work out, and considering the gap that exists between himself and Dish, it's going to be close if he wants to finish ahead of his championship rival. Carlos Dish, who entered late into this series, has taken competition by storm. He entered 2 rounds down. His maiden arrival to this series was in Zolder, and it was only a round later where he picked up on his first 2 wins back-to-back at the Bathurst double sprint. Then, later on down the line, when we went to the Circuit Paul Ricard in the second half of the championship, he picked up on his 3rd win. It is going to be fantastic, though, when we get to the end of the season, because there's so many things we'd like to ask some of these drivers to really sort of get in their heads a bit and figure out, what it is that they do, why it is they do what they do. That's what we have our limited understanding, though, of Van Velzen at this time. If he has now really knuckled down for this championship, you can see it. You can definitely see it, because this has been a man on a mission throughout Season 5. Just about 6 minutes left to go. In terms of nearby fights, we do have 2 of the Holkianos cars. Behind them is not Yaguta Helmi, sorry, that is the number 19, Teo Vlasov. But he's down in 16th place at the moment, so not fighting for position between the 2 Holkianos cars, Belder and Sanchez, who have been series mainstays here. See as well. Oh no, more trouble here for Ian Skeen. This is down at turn 9. And he just cannot catch a break. It is gut-wrenching when you see this happen to Ian Skeen, because he has proven over the course of this that he has had such solid pace, and that's all come apart for him in the last 5 minutes after trouble down at turn 9. That Mercedes, it has to be cursed at this point. Down through turn 11 and turn 12. Well, yes, this has proven to be a very solid choice of machine. This is definitely going to be a conversation he'll have with his team by the end of this season. Is it a case that we are maybe gambling and losing here on that choice with Mercedes? Because what we understand, and having chatted with drivers of the Mercedes over the course of the last couple of months at a few different championships, this car is very difficult to work with. A lot of what makes sense on other cars doesn't make sense on the Mercedes when it comes to vehicle setup, and that's what makes it such a polarizing option. But we know, even after 6 years since its last technical update, that this car is still competitive. And we've seen it demonstrated before. Four minutes left to go in this race. Still no word from the leading duo, Fake Galaxy and Tyler Vermack. The two separated by just under 11.5 seconds. The two leading 5-star cars are yet to take their one and only pit stops in this race. The Galaxy, his primary objective here is to come away with his second win. He's already secured on his first, and the pace would have you believe that he is definitely on his charts for a second win back-to-back with his first. We'll have to come and see, though. 3.5 minutes left to go, so if you want to call it now in terms of the pit lane, this is the latest I think we've seen anyone do it in the lead of the race. He's been playing this one very close to the end. And I think we discussed this in some of the other series that we cover that follows a similar format to this, that what's good about these shorter pit stops and these almost lightning strategies we see in the pit lane, where it's a stop and drop, the engines shut off before they even come to a stop, and they fire back up the moment their car hits 0 miles an hour, and they're back out like that. What's one of the fascinating parts of this is they can treat this almost like a joker lap, if you were to speak in terms of rallycross. So a lot of this is now spent wondering, okay, when do I bite the bullet, come in and take what is effectively my joker? And that's the case here for Fake Galaxy. He's in. Following him is Vermack. 29 seconds away is Van Velzen in third. So he's committed to his strategy, and oh, what is he doing here? That's cheeky. That's remarkably cheeky. If he meant to do that, well, that's not going to look good, because I think we just caught him with his hands red. You know, this ain't good for him there. I think it was a case where he come down onto the brakes, realised, oh, geez, I'm not going to be getting through that corner, and just elected to cut. But I will say, if he does get a position off of that one, that's going to be really cheeky. Number 8's rolling out here. Van Velzen's going to move to second. Uh-oh, I think someone's in trouble with the stewards. Someone is more than absolutely in trouble with the stewards. Did that gain or lose time? Well, you tell me, 5-star Jupiter, because as it would stand then, Vermack is now behind Van Velzen, where if that cut didn't happen, I think it would be on pretty solid grounds to assume the two would be side by side. Now, it's a tough one there, because you could definitely see the attitude of the car on the run down through to turn 11 and 12. I don't think he was intending to cut, because he would have gone faster, for starters. He would have gone faster. We've seen, or I've seen personally, and so have you, if you're, I'm speaking directly here to 5-star Jupiter. We've both seen Van Velzen on Rallycross. We know he'd go faster. But I think it was a case he come down into Hans Ernst, was down on the brakes way too late. You saw the car was pitching into the right before he slammed it off to the left. It was like, okay, I'm not making this corner. I don't want to run over those curbs and potentially run myself aground. Just cut over it. But I don't know. That's going to be a complicated case here for the race control team, and I do not envy the job they have on this on this day here, because this could play quite a nasty hand depending on how many seconds worth of a penalty they give over to Van Velzen. Because look who's right behind Vermack at this time. It's Carlos Disch looking at a chance at the podium here. Van Velzen, a man on a mission here, and this is definitely him at his most brazen today here in Zandvoort. We see the 55 across the line here to start his final flying lap, and not too far away then is what remains of the podium. 2 BMWs and a Ford then, a 3-way split for the last lap of racing here in race 2 of round 8 at Zandvoort. Also worth pointing out here, advancing to a 3-way fight for 10th place is Ian Skeen. We've seen him make miracles of things yet here in Zandvoort, but with more troubles down at the same corner he wiped out at earlier this race, are the chances still there for him to see the top 10 at the end of race 2? We'll wait and see. Watching on here with Carlos Disch, looking for a chance here over Tyler Vermack down at the Hugenholt spot at turn 3. Up to Hunsrug. Watching in here with Carlos Disch, still pursuing Tyler Vermack, currently on what is the scope of the fight for third place. Down through turn 7 they go. Meanwhile, Cas Van Velzen already got the burners on to put looking at it there, nearly 1.5 seconds on Vermack at this time. Number 83, Yaguta Helmi's in trouble down in 13th, slowing down in front of the 55. And considering what things have happened on race 2 before for that 55, I don't like the look of this one down through to Hans Ernst. We're watching here, though, with Diesch versus Vermaak. We'll see them in just a moment's time here. We see Diesch committing to the inside. As we see down through to turn 14 here, rolls the number 55. Out through Arie Luijendijk. You can see in front of him there a little bit of trouble for one of the BMWs, but it doesn't stop the procession to the line here as the checkered flag flies. It's back-to-back victories for Fate Galaxy. He won in race 1, he wins in race 2, but this is how the hammer falls on the top 5. And we see here to the line, Cas van Velzen for 2nd, Tyler Vermaak to 3rd by a hair's width from Carlos Diesch, who marks 4th place. Ellie Pocket to 5th. Down to the line then, at the end of today, the 855 again in the top 5, so yet to have, I believe, spoiled that record of constant top 5 finishes. We see there for Cheeseman in 6th, Progenio in 7th place, so finishes on neutral ground there, started 7th, finished 7th, considering he's done both of these races in a Reiter REX. That is quite remarkable stuff here, and we do see, just quickly here, with Ian Skeen in his pursuits of Sergio Belda, I think he might just be a little too far away here. As we see across the line, went Haggard for 8th, Jenkins to 9th, Belda for the last of the top 10 positions. Skeen in tow there for 11th, up and ahead of Sanchez in 12th place. At the end of it all, though, Fate Galaxy once again wins here in Zandvoort. You see for Carlos Diesch, and we wanted to try and catch on with these folks here because we did have a few complaints written by the folks at Euro Titans that we weren't watching their parades at the end of these races, but you know, I have to ask the question, where are they? We see the 696. It's a bittersweet day here for Ian Skeen. He has put on a formidable fight. And we can definitely credit him for the driver that he is, having put on a very remarkable performance. But sadly, results-wise, just wasn't his day here for race 2. Not another top 10 finish here for the Mercedes. He's really had some struggles with the car here in Zandvoort. A pity that today has gone the way that it has, though, for him. But it has been joy and jubilation for 5-star and the 55 here. If this is to be the last of his drives for 5-star, it has been quite the swan song here for Fate Galaxy on his first 2 wins in the Sunday League in tandem. We got word in there from Van Velzen that he did lift on the run out through turn 11 and turn 12. He bounced on the curbs on entry, so there was no chance he was going to make that corner. So we did actually get an official statement in there from Cas Van Velzen over what happened down at the Hans Ernst spot on the penultimate lap of racing. We see there word in from NWR Skyler. Proger family tradition of on-track violence continues as he marks, or at least his Italian cousin Progenio marks 7th place on the grid. I imagine this is going to become somewhat of a pattern here, so we do wonder what other kind of cousins we'll be seeing of the Proger family here into the trailing end of Season 5. And a warm welcome back for that 222, albeit not on a car we were expecting to see. Proger still turned, oh sorry, Progenio, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Progenio turning that Reiter into a multiple-time top 10 finisher. Freudian slip there. No, that's not, just to clarify, not Hayden Proger in the car. No. It's its Italian cousin. We do see there Redrix Racing asking, where is Raphael Bayer? Great question, actually. Fantastic question. No idea. Not a clue. We had multiple sign-outs on this race. I'm not sure if we were going to have Raphael Bayer. Is he even signed up in this race? Race control, you can back me up on this one. Do we have him signed in on this? No, I'm looking through here. He's not on the entry list. Well, sadly, yeah, if you're a friend of Raphael Bayer, do get in touch with him because we don't see him on the entry list here. Get in touch with him and get him on this grid. He's a fantastic driver. And he definitely deserves a spot here on the ranks of the Sunday League. Oh, I think he's switching to PC soon. Oh, yeah, no, he mentioned pity there. But imagine if we could get him in on the Sunday League. I don't know. I'll try and have a chat with him on the off-season between Season 5 and Season 6. See if we could sneak him in on a guest appearance. But What a race it's been today then. A dual set of races and the last of the double sprints here in Season 5. Round 8 gave us back-to-back wins then for Fake Galaxy, both in the overall and the rookie category. So what a performance then from that 55. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. The 17th unique race winner in this, championship, and the first ever Austrian driver to do so, mirroring what happened in the last double sprint this season from his former teammate, possibly future teammate, Carlos Disch, when he went back-to-back for his first and second wins in tandem in this championship. Brilliant stuff then from today. And we see for Cas van Veltzen, he'll continue to lead that charge in the championship up and ahead of that of Carlos Disch as we see the rest of the field peel away here. The last of the drivers on, we see the 114 and the 855. There goes the 855, the 114 likely then to pack up soon. But taking a look at where we'll be for the next stop of the championship, it's into the penultimate round on the 19th of April as we head to the Temple of Speed, the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, over in Italy for the second to last round of the season. Then Alton Park for the season finale on the 26th of April for the last of the endurance races, as it would be. 90 minutes of racing to decide the championship. We'll see whether or not we tie a nice, neat bow on both championships in the overall and rookies by the time we get out of the Temple of Speed next week. That's all from us here on TRTN. If you're joining us tomorrow, we go on board for round 4 of Season 10 of Fats GT. We're on for the first of their endurance races of the season. 90 minutes of racing to follow at the Suzuka International Racing Course. That's tomorrow in the evening time on Monday, the 13th of April. Until then, that's all from us here on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.